that is generated in production should be appropriated by the entire society for their benefit and not by the ruling classes, that is the capitalists. If that has to happen, then this production process has to be overthrown. It is only through that process that full, complete emancipation of a human being is possible. And that is what Marx meant by saying, philosophers have often interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. To change it is to end this production process which breeds exploitation and generates profits, whose maximization is the motive force of capitalism. And in the process, it debases human beings, and that is something which has become very, very apparent in today's situation when we are all battling the COVID pandemic. The entire humanity is battling it. But how capitalism's cruelty comes about even in this sort of a situation, that is something that we must today recollect when we are talking about Marx and his contributions to human civilizational advance. And that is, when in this situation, the COVID pandemic, this virus, this small organism, only when it comes into contact with life, this organism can afflict anybody. It doesn't make a distinction between a capitalist and a working class. It can afflict everybody. But the capitalist system creates the situation where there is a difference between human beings of those who are able to withstand this pandemic attack or this virus attack and those who are succumb to it. And that is where the class differences come in. And that is why you see, as they said, both Marx and Engels together, when they said in the housing question, in fact, which Engels wrote, he says the angel of death will not spare even the bourgeoisie. They think that it can be contained in the working class areas, they can be contained in the hovels of the poor, they can be contained in the slums that are there in our country in almost every urban center. No, but that angel of death will ultimately attack them as well, and that is when you will have situations where you talk of this sort of a national lockdown. We ought to have been prepared much earlier. We had 2 months of lead time, but we wasted that. And that lead time should have prepared us to augment our health facilities, give protection to our doctors, health workers, etc., and to make arrangements so that people do not suffer from job losses. Remember, this is what both Marx and Engels have said in the Communist Manifesto. I quote, "The bourgeoisie has stripped off its halo every occupation hitherto honored and looked up with reverent awe. It has converted the physician, the lawyer, the priest, the poet, the man of science into paid wage laborers. The bourgeoisie has torn away from the family its sentimental veil and has reduced the family relation into a mere money relation." This cruelty of capitalism becomes more pronounced in such situations where we are facing and fighting this pandemic. First of all, as profit maximization is the motive, look at this of what is happening globally. The billionaires in the world, 10 US top billionaires, have added during this period of the pandemic $208 billion to their wealth. On the other hand, globally, large numbers of working class have been losing their jobs. Those who are on daily workers, those who are on daily wages, those who are on contracts, those who are on temporary employment, they've all lost their basis of livelihood. Globally, unemployment has risen sharply. In India, since this national lockdown began in the last week of March, since then, the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy shows us that the number of unemployed who have been added to the existing unemployed, that number is 14 crores, nearly 14 crores. That means 14 crore people have lost their livelihood according to that estimation. The reality could be much, much worse, because most of the people who think they are employed are also underemployed, paid lower wages. In every field, from organized industry to your service industries, there have been pay cuts going up to at least 30%, if not 50%. There have been layoffs during this period. And during this period, what is the profits that are being made by our own big corporates, Indian corporates? The Reliance, for instance, has reported a rise in its profit of 17.7% during this period. Their profits will maximize, but Reliance is laying off workers. There are wage cuts that are happening. And it's in this period how the state is used by the ruling classes, the capitalist class, which is their state, which is what it is. The government waives off 68,800 crores of loans taken by the cronies of our Prime Minister. And this amount of money is waived off to them during this period. What they are saying is, no, it's only written off, it's not waived off. It can still be recovered. But what is the track record of recovery of all such written off loans? Not more than 12% is what was reported in the parliament some years ago. Even if it goes by it, not more than 1/5 of that is ever recovered. That means the rich get a bonanza, the corporates get a bonanza, but the working class and the poor suffer. And we have all seen what is happening with the migrants. The government says they have no money to run trains to return these migrants back to their homes, because there is no basis for them they cannot have any basis to continue living without any work, without any shelter. But they say that these migrant workers will have to pay. Waive off 68,800 crores to the rich. Allow your corporates to maximize their profits by retrenchment, by throwing people out of jobs, by cutting the salaries. But for the migrants, for the poor, you're not able to even provide them with basic need to meet their hunger. You cannot provide them with train fares to go back to their homes. Very correctly, our government had brought back many stranded Indians from many countries in the world at the expense of the government. If that can be done, can the government now provide a free transportation to these people going back to their homes so that they can survive? But they don't do that. On the other hand, thousands of crores of rupees is being collected in a private fund that has the Prime Minister's name. We've seen such a private fund earlier. After the Pulwama terrorist attack, in order to pay for the families of the martyrs who lost their lives in that attack, a fund was created, again a private fund, called Bharat Ke Veer. And the thousands of crores that went into that fund, there is no accounting so far as to how much has been paid to those families, what is the amount that has been collected, and nothing is transparent. Similar will be the fate of this fund, where employees are being forced to pay a day's wage, forced, where the salaries have been cut of members of parliament, of the officers, where all this money is going into that account. And this sort of a transferring into that account, and they've announced that it's going to be tax-free for the rich. They are donating very handsomely to that, all the corporates. But where is that money going to be used? If it cannot be used to take care of our own people, can there be anything more cruel than what we are seeing today under the present-day capitalism? Today, what are we saying? We have enough funds, there's no dearth of resources in our country. Immediately pay to all non-income tax payers, immediately pay their families 7,500 rupees per month for the next 3 months so that they can survive. all those who are hungry, distribute free food to them. We have today 77 million tons of food grains in the central godowns. A new crop is coming. At least another 40 million tons will be added to this food stock. If that food stock is not meant for people to live, to meet their hunger, then what is it going to be used for? Again, to earn profits by trying to sell it somewhere in the world? This is cruelty, inhuman cruelty. Immediately send the food grains to the states so that the hungry can be fed free and we can protect our own people. But no, thousands of crores in that fund, that won't be used. But you will have fly pasts and helicopters showering petals, flower petals, helicopters that normally should have given food to the migrants walking thousands of kilometers to trudging back home. They could have dropped food instead of the rose petals. But no. So this is the reality. And then all the state governments are being starved. The dues to them, the GST dues to them have not been paid. There is no way the state governments have resources to pay the salaries of their own employees. So they are now resorting to increasing the prices of petroleum products from which they earn some revenue, which is again burdening the people. From this fund you are collecting, Mr. Prime Minister, you please liberally give the states, fund the states, because they are on the battlefront of this, fighting this pandemic. But that is not being done. And then the central government decides on the lockdown with just 4-hour notice. And then it tells the state governments, it's your responsibility to look after the migrants. If some preparation time was given to both the state governments and to the workers themselves, they would have made their own arrangement at their own cost and returned back home before a lockdown began. But no, nothing of this was done. But now, shove the blame onto the state governments, saying it's your responsibility. The central government had to procure testing kits so that India does not continue to remain one of the countries with the lowest levels of testing that is being done anywhere in the world. That is for a 10 lakh population. I think we are testing close to about 600. This, or even less. This is something that is unacceptable. But the funds are not being used for that. So the net result is that you cannot have a situation where we'll have more non-COVID deaths because of hunger, because of malnutrition, because of starvation, people succumbing to the COVID. The number of non-COVID deaths cannot be higher than the COVID deaths. That can be prevented. Today there are lakhs and lakhs of people who have other diseases, who need medical treatment, who are not getting it. More than 3 lakh acute diabetes patients, they are not getting the attention they need. More than 1 lakh of cancer patients are not getting the attention they need. More than 3 lakh children could not be inoculated with the basic shots that all of us had when we were children, which protect us from various diseases. These vaccinations have not been given. Mothers who are delivering our country's future, pregnant mothers, they require vaccination so that the child is protected, and so is the mother. Those are not being given. No, we require now to improve our health system. That's a larger issue. But this pandemic has exposed the entire cruelty and inhumanity of capitalism, in the sense, in order to make profits, even health facilities are sold. You're privatizing health facilities. And that is the level that you have reached in the world under capitalism. That you are unable to create any universal health care taking care of your own people. It's only in countries which have a universal public system. Like in China, in Vietnam, where there's not been a single COVID death so far, in Cuba, in Korea, even countries like South Korea, Singapore, they have shown with their basic health infrastructural facilities. And we in India, the left-wing government in Kerala has shown the way that with a public health infrastructural system, with a public distribution of food to everybody, irrespective of categories, BPL or APL or ration cards, etc., to everybody, subsidized food being provided, that has shown the manner in which the left-wing government has handled this entire situation. It has now drawn the appreciation and recognition of the entire world. The talk of the Kerala model. If Kerala can do it in India, why can't the rest of India? It can be done. And that is where we have to, even in this, while we are fighting this pandemic, draw the proper lessons. And that is what Marxism is all about. Marxism is about changing the world, and how do you change it? You change it through a concrete analysis of concrete conditions. And as these conditions keep changing, your analysis has to keep pace with it. And a correct assessment of the changes, a correct estimation of the changing conditions, and a scientific analysis of those conditions on the basis of which you can intervene. And that is why Marxism is a creative science. It is not a dogma. It's not a formula. As conditions change, if your analysis doesn't change accordingly, and on the scientific basis of ultimately achieving your revolutionary objective, then that is not Marxism. Marxism means it's a creative science that has to be applied to the concrete conditions to equip ourselves to intervene in those conditions in order to change the world, in order to end exploitation. And that is why in today's conditions, it is necessary for all of us to come together while fighting this pandemic, also to realize how this pandemic situation is being utilized by our own ruling classes to further their own agenda. One, of course, as I said, of maximization of profits, but every situation of a health emergency is sought to be used by the ruling classes in order to tighten their grip and control over the people, society, through the state. And we have seen that in India. We have our own experience under the British, where in order to tackle the pandemic, we had laws like the Epidemic Diseases Act in the 1890s. You had the Sedition Act that was brought in order to control those people who are critical of how the situation is being handled. Now all that is being implemented. Anybody today critical of this government, any dissenting opinion, cases are filed against them. The police is used against them. In this situation, when you're fighting the pandemic, when people ought to be released from jails so that the dangers of the disease spreading there in overcrowded jails that we have in India, that can be controlled. Instead, all those who join the peaceful protests against the CAA, NPR and NRC, they're all being booked up now, targeted and picked up and booked up. And alongside, the Sedition Act is being invoked. People have been arrested and jailed while we are fighting this pandemic. And targeted choosing of activists who have been critical of this government. And in that process, another cruelty, inhuman cruelty that is happening is that this government that we have in India today, this government is continuing to advance the RSS agenda of converting a secular democratic Republic of India into their theocratic fascistic project. And it is that process that you see the targeting of religious minorities. Now this is something that is completely unacceptable even in this fight against this pandemic. We can win this fight against the COVID pandemic only on the basis of the strength of our unity. If you want to disrupt this unity, divide this unity, sharpen communal polarization in order to advance your agenda, in that situation, the fight itself will get weakened. And that is precisely what this government is doing today. So even in this situation of fighting the pandemic, this agenda of the government must be understood by us. Profit maximization on one hand, authoritarian control when moving towards a totalitarian surveillance state, making it mandatory to use technological applications through which they can monitor everybody going everywhere. If you go to Vienna today, I mean, I don't know today, but many years ago when I had gone there for one of these international meetings, I'd wanted to go and visit the Museum of Sigmund Freud, the first, considered the father of psychology, and psychological analysis. And even today, when you go to his house, on the red brick gate, a column which has the gate, you'll find a cross with a chalk on it. Sigmund Freud was a Jew. Under Nazi occupation of Vienna, every Jew's house was marked as the signal of where should the people attack, where the mob should attack. Today, with this technology, you don't require to mark the houses of those who should be attacked. The technology tells you everything. So an authoritarian, totalitarian surveillance state, and then advancing the agenda of communal polarization, and then on the other hand, the basic fundamental foundations of capitalism of maximizing profit by increasing the agony of the people, generating greater unemployment, but you utilize the state in order to benefit your cronies. The entire inhumanity of the system, that is coming out bare. So that is why today, immediately the focus of ours should be first to pressurize this government to send back these migrants at the expense of the government, central government. Secondly, a cash transfer of 7,500 rupees to each non-income tax paying family for 3 months, every month 7,500. Free food distribution for the hungry. And augment our health services, protect our health workers with proper equipment, and increase the testing facilities so that we are able to, on a scientific basis, identify the areas where this community spread is taking place of this virus, and then contain it in order to get rid of it from our country. That is what those countries have done, which finally got rid of it. It may come back. Surely, till we have a vaccination, the dangers will be there. That is where we should maintain the precautions necessary. They call this social distancing. Typical way of trying to create a social divide. What is need to be practiced is not social distancing. It is physical distancing. Physical distancing with social solidarity, not the targeting of any one particular community. The physical distance with social solidarity, hygienic conditions, wearing of these masks, these are the things we may have to live with till a proper vaccine or an antidote to this virus is developed. But then we'll be able to do that only when you have a government that is responsive, only when you have a system that can really take care of its own people, where you'll have universal health care and universal food security, along with giving proper education to our children so that the general human development indicators continue to increase and develop. That is why in today's conditions, changing the world means today to combat this pandemic in a united manner and to fight all the tendencies that I spoke of, which are inherent under capitalism, that of profit maximization at the expense of sharpening people's misery and agony, an authoritarian, totalitarian state which tramples on all the elementary democratic rights, hard-won rights that we have won. Today, laws are being brought in order to increase the working day of the workers, from 8-hour working day to 12 hours today. They're talking of 12 hours, at least 4 states, governments in India, 8-hour day has been increased to 12 hours a day. That means greater creation of surplus value, greater the profit maximization by them, and in the name of 8 to 12 hours workers, one half of the workforce will be thrown out of jobs. This is the nature of the capitalism that is unfolding today. And then, on the other hand, the agenda of this government of seeking to replace the secular democratic Republic of India by a theocratic fascistic alternative, that is something that has to be resisted if we have to even protect our hard-won rights which are being erased in the pretext of fighting this pandemic. So therefore come. The CPIM today, our party has been committed in all across the country, in thousands of places. The party workers, the party sympathizers, they are actively in work in providing relief to the people, either in relief camps or distributing food and providing shelter. Yes, but this cannot be done through the charity of any individual. The right to live, the right not to be hungry, the right to have a proper remuneration for a proper decent livelihood with dignity is a fundamental right, not the products of some charity. That right has to be asserted, and it is in the process of asserting that right while we are fighting this pandemic, that is when we have to now, when we recollect Marx, we have to recollect it in order to meet the concrete situation at hand, concrete analysis of concrete conditions, and on that basis, combining a supremely scientific approach with the revolutionary objective of human emancipation, that is where we'll have to be moving forward to. That is why today we remember Marx in order to apprise ourselves of a concrete analysis of what is currently happening, in order to intervene, to take these tasks ahead, so that we can ultimately, finally move towards the ultimate goal of complete human emancipation. Come, join us in this fight, join us in this struggle, join us in protecting ourselves from this fatal disease.